To kick us off today, I'm excited to introduce John Thompson. John is an international technology executive with over 30 years of experience in the business intelligence and advanced analytics fields. Currently, John is responsible for the global advanced analytics and artificial intelligence team and efforts at CSL. Prior to CSL, John was an executive partner at Gartner, where he was a management consultant to market-leading companies in the areas of digital transformation, data monetization, and advanced analytics. Before Gartner, John was responsible for the advanced analytics business unit of the Dell Software Group. John is the author of the new book, Analytics Teams, Leveraging Analytics and Artificial Intelligence for Business Improvement. The book was published in June 2020 and outlines how to hire and manage high-performance advanced analytics teams. Please join me in welcoming John to the stage.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Good, Daniel. How are you today?
I'm really well. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, Patricia, I want to get going with the first question. Okay, John, what is your role at CSL Behring?
I am the global head of advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. So my role is to be the interface with the executives and subject matter experts and senior managers at CSL that will want to make a difference in their business through advanced analytics and artificial intelligence. So they come to me with ideas about improving our supply chain, improving our donor experience, optimizing our pricing, pretty much anything that they want to improve and optimize with analytics and data. That's my job.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Next slide, Patricia. Okay, John, when it comes to your AI initiatives, what is top of mind right now?
Right now, we've been working on pricing, forecasting, and understanding the donor experience. So we're very interested in collecting, integrating, managing, and understanding our operations from a data perspective. So we can forecast out what's going to happen in the business. Obviously, we're in an unusual time with COVID. So we can't really look back on historical norms and understand what's going to happen today or tomorrow or even 6 months from now. So we're working really hard to understand the world we're in as it is happening every day.
I see. So you mentioned pricing and forecasting as well. What sort of products are you working on with those?
Well, the products, do you mean our products or the products that we actually use to do the forecasting and the pricing analytics?
I guess either, yeah.
Well, we're a shop that believes in open source technology. So we code a lot of our applications in R and Python and Dash and R Shiny and things like that. So we generally collect data from the ground up, integrate it, internal and external data, and then build our own systems. As far as what we're doing with forecasting, we started this, I guess, about a year ago, or maybe a little over a year ago. And we have over 300 plasma donation centers across the United States. We're very much interested in what those centers are going to do on an hour-by-hour basis. And some people say, well, forecasting hour by hour, that's a little bit of overkill. But we not only are interested in what the plasma volume is going to be, we're interested in optimizing our operations from a staffing perspective. So we're doing our forecasting at a very granular level and then pushing that out to our staff and saying, okay, it looks like your center operations are going to be at this level next week, the week after, the next 2 months, so they can look at their staff and they can schedule in an optimized way.
Wow. I see. That makes a lot of sense. So it's an attempt to create much greater efficiency across all these different areas, if I'm understanding you correctly. I see.
You are. Absolutely. Yeah. We created the forecast, obviously, for our managers and executives so they can have a future look on the operations of the business, because human plasma, the plasma we collect, is the raw materials for all the life-saving therapies that we manufacture. So we need to understand the volume of that plasma coming into the business so we'll know exactly what we're going to be able to manufacture in the future. So the initial idea for forecasting was like everybody does in forecasting. How are we going to do? What's our future volume going to be? Very simple. And then we started refining it, extending it, and using it for many other purposes.
I see. And so, you mentioned that a lot of people are thinking about forecasting, not necessarily a new idea. Where does the AI come into play in this way? Is it definitely AI that you're using? Is it more traditional techniques?
Well, we had a different group doing the forecasting. I guess it was over almost a year and a half ago now, and we came in and said, hey, they were using the traditional techniques that you would use in forecasting, and we said we think we can do a better job even in a dynamic, changing environment with a neural network based forecasting system. So we are using machine learning, we are using AI to deliver it. We had a significant number of people doing the forecast before, and the forecast was available certain times of the year, less than a handful of times. Now the forecast is available 24/7 at the push of a button. So anybody can look at the forecast, anybody can, examine it. And then in addition to the forecast that people can go and look at to help use their, help to refine their management, we've built a simulation system on top of that. So the individual managers can go in and move sliders around, and that it'll change the shape of the forecast and the slope of the forecast. And they can save that. And then managers can get together and debate which forecast they think is more accurate.
I mean, it sounds better in every single way. Cool. Patricia, you want to move on to the next question? Thank you, John.
Sure.
All right. What does your vision for CSL Behring look like 5 or 10 years down the road? And of course, because we're at an AI conference, how is AI involved?
Yeah, I believe, CSL, we're just on the initial stages of our advanced analytics and AI journey. Many people look at different charts, they all have this hockey stick shape to them. I believe that we're just starting to get off the ground with what we're doing. We're focusing a lot in our plasma business. We also have another business, which is our Seqirus business, which is a flu and vaccine business. And then we have the manufacturing, the Behring side of the business. I believe that all of those businesses in every operational aspect can benefit from advanced analytics, and many of those applications, probably more than 80 to 90% of them, will be AI based. So it's kind of hard to say, what individual function will be impacted by AI, because in my opinion, they all will. We'll do supply chain planning, we'll do, as I said, pricing optimization. The flu business is dramatically different than the plasma-based therapy business that we work on, treating rare diseases. So the modalities of those businesses are different. The pricing is different. So we'll be working on all of that.
Wow. And a digital transformation like that, do you expect it to take a long time? Is it quicker than, I might think, I guess? What's the timeline on something like this with such drastic change?
Well, that's a great question, Dan. It's evergreen, I guess is the way to say it. I had a few people ask me when I was writing my second book, when are we going to be done with AI? When are we going to be done with advanced analytics? When is this going to finish? And I said, well, the answer is never. It's never done. You're always improving. You're always getting better. We were working years ago when I was at Dell with a company in Western Europe. And they had, spoken to us. They're a leader in their field. They had been using AI for many years, really advanced operations. And some people said, well, we're bringing you in just to hear what you think, because we know that we're the best and we can't possibly get any better. So we took a look at what they were doing, and we were able to improve some of their key performance indicators in ways that they were really surprised. So even the experts at time get surprised at how much more can be done. So when are we going to be done? Not in my lifetime.
Never. Cool. Patricia, next question. All right. Okay, so this is extremely relevant based on what you're talking about. So how do you approach digital transformation?
Great question, Dan. I personally believe, and I'm biased, of course, that digital transformation needs to be driven by data and analytics. There are a number of people that do digital transformation simply and purely from a process perspective, and that's good. And you can certainly get improvement in your business by looking simply at processes and making them more streamlined and efficient. But I do think that many people in businesses around the world, in every industry, in every country, get a little bit off track when they don't go to the data. We've looked at our business at CSL Behring. I certainly have done it over the 20 different industries I've worked in over my career. And it is always the case that when you go to the real data and you do the analytics and you show it to the executives, the senior managers, the subject matter experts, the business is actually different than what they believe it is. You have tribal knowledge, you have historical norms, you have anecdotal evidence, and some of it's true, some of it's accurate, but most of it is not. So you can find different markets that are better for you, different price points that are more interesting, different groups of people who will use your services. I think digital transformation has to start with the data and analytics. Then once you get a real view of what the data or what the business and the operations are doing from a ground truth perspective, then it's better to transform from that starting point rather than just simply looking at it and going, we're going to transform because we think we should transform.
I see. And what is an example of some sort of insight or realization you might gain from being data driven in the initial stages when you're looking at the data? What might you learn that would be helpful to win over an executive, let's say?
We did some analysis at CSL about a year and a half ago that showed that there was a perception that we had a certain type of market segment. And we went in and looked at it and we said, okay, well, it's not one of our primary market segments, but it was one that we were spending money on and had marketing programs targeted at and those kind of things. And our analysis showed that it didn't exist. These kinds of customers and these kind of donors did not exist in the business. And I think that was because that the world had changed. It was not that these people did not exist. They certainly do exist, and we could bring them back in the business. But their world had shifted so dramatically from the historical view of who they were and where they lived and what motivated them. Our efforts were missing the mark widely. So we went back and explained that, these people exist, but we're not reaching them. We need to pivot our targeted marketing from this mix to this mix. And the company looked at it and said, yeah, it's, as you said, it's not a primary segment. It's not a huge piece of the business, but it is something that we'd like to bring back in. So we changed our marketing mix, we changed our messaging, we changed our targeting, and we have that segment back now. So, it's one of those things that, as I said, the data gives you the ground truth. The anecdotal, historical, tribal knowledge can, be living in the past sometimes.
I see. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. And when it comes to how to organize teams effectively, I know you think a lot about that. Is the best way to do it having a center of excellence or a central group that sort of consults around the organization? Is the best way to do it to have disparate teams that are thinking about transformation? How would you recommend people set up the human aspect of all this?
Great question, Daniel. Of course, I do think a lot about that. My second book was all about that. So, 10 chapters, 100,000 words. We could do a dramatic reading of the entire book. Can
you recite the whole thing?
We'll just start from page 1 and go. But yeah, no, I'm a firm believer in the center of excellence concept. I'm also a firm believer that a center of excellence can't do everything for an organization. CSL's 27,000 employees, not the largest company in the world, but certainly not an insignificant sized organization. We have a very robust R&D function. We have a very robust supply chain, manufacturing. We have lots of people who are very smart around the organization. So we have a center of excellence that I manage, of course. But what we have set up is a community of practice. That's 500 people around CSL, around the world, who are interested and involved in analytics. Then we've broken those 500 people, that community of practice, down into 15 special interest groups. So that could be R or Python or data visualization or pharmacovigilance or biostatistics. And all those are real groups and they exist. So what that allows us to do is we have the Center of Excellence where we have some really intense, highly qualified, highly skilled data scientists. We have a broader group that talks about a wide range of topics, and we have smaller groups that talk about specialized topics. Those three constructs work together really well to allow people to think big, focus, and communicate in ways that are structured enough that we can bring ideas into the Center of Excellence. We can also interface with different groups like the biostatistics group to help them, because biostatistics is a really interesting field and can do many, many impressive things for our organization. But there's a few things that they miss, in machine learning and sometime in user interface design and customer experience design, that we have those skills in our Center of Excellence. And we're happy to interface and loan those skills out to those federated groups when they're building their analytical applications.
I see. Thank you so much for that in-depth answer. Patricia, you want to move on to the next slide? All right, I think this is the last one. So what are your thoughts on AI and healthcare moving forward? Very interested in your thoughts on this.
It's a great question, and it's really a broad, fun one to think about. As a matter of fact, we're in biopharma. We're the second largest biopharma company in the world. So you hear people talking about healthcare, and you have to ask, okay, what's healthcare mean to you? Is that a hospital? Is that a provider? Is that a pharmaceutical company? Is that a payer? Healthcare is a very broad field. So I'll take it from the perspective of pharmaceuticals and healthcare providers for just the first swing at it. So I believe that, we will see advanced analytics and AI really helping the biopharma and pharma companies with their refining of their products, improving of their R&D targeting and efforts, and in all the other commercial areas as well. Pricing, supply chain, manufacturing operations, distribution, marketing, all those things will be affected by AI. One of the areas in the provider side, the healthcare side, doctors, hospitals, that side of healthcare that I see happening is that we see a lot more data-driven decisions. It was unfortunate what has happened with IBM Watson and their efforts around AI. I think there was a slight overreach there. But we do see a fair amount of work in diagnostics and understanding scans, in mammography and cancers of all types. And we also see AI coming around in the field of treatment discovery. There's a few companies out there that have taken a really interesting approach to understanding cancers at a gene level, and not doing it from a healthcare or a wet lab perspective, but doing it simply from a computing perspective and looking at that. And one company has found the interaction of 2 or 3 genes that are actually causing a couple of the breast cancers that up until now have been very difficult to impossible to treat. So this computational approach, kind of like DeepMind has been doing at Google and a few other companies, is allowing us to look at existing drugs and come up with new drug combinations that are making these cancers and other diseases treatable and extending people's lives and saving lives. So I believe that all across the spectrum of healthcare, we're going to see more of a computational, data-driven approach. And some of it's going to be very big data. Some of it's going to be very targeted pattern searching and pattern recognition and pattern discovery. So I think that those are some of the big things that we're going to see in AI and healthcare.
Wow. Thank you so much, John. I think we're out of time. And thank you so much for being with us here today.
It's really been a pleasure. I always enjoy talking to you, Daniel, and a joy to be with the AI4 crowd. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Thank you, John, for sharing these insights. It has been an awesome conversation. And I know the audience is giving you a huge virtual round of applause. For the audience, you can go ahead and make your way to your next session. Along the way, make sure you stop through and check out our amazing AI exhibits. Thanks so much, and we'll see you around.